Psych family, it's Monique, and today I would like to jump into talking about young and emerging adulthood. So, this is highlighting chapters 13 and 14 of your book. And young and emerging adulthood is a pretty Western idea. And so it's a pretty new phenomenon. But when we talk about the age range, remember it's a social construct. So we're looking at ages 20-ish to 44-ish, okay? So when we are coming into ourselves as adults and things like that, we use 3 criteria to define adulthood. So one of which is accepting responsibility for yourself, making independent decisions, and then another one is becoming financially independent. Okay. Typically, young adults are in good health. Like 96% say they're in either good health or excellent health, which is great. Because of changing laws and things like that, we see and policies, we're starting to see more young adults with health insurance and things like that. Accidents are still the leading cause of death at this point, and the rates of injury, homicide, and substance use peak during young adulthood. And you guys can think, like, what's happening in people's young adulthoods? Usually they're, able to sign off on things like skydiving, right? Even though I don't think too many horrible things happen from that. But anyway, just an example, or even just the experience of going to college. What does that mean for a lot of people, right? So it should be noted that SES is very strongly correlated with poor health, which, I mean, we've spoke about all types of like healthcare disparities and things like that. So we're gonna know that SES, race and ethnicity, certain cultural differences and things like that are gonna be correlated with poor health, even at this age. Obesity is increasing, so about 71.6% in the US, and only 51.6% of young adults in the US say that they exercise regularly and meet the standards, right? Lack of sleep is common, which I'm sure we can all speak to that, right? Especially nowadays. Like, it's like you're lucky if you're getting like 5-6 hours, right? So lack of sleep is common. Also, social relationships are super important. Even if they don't seem like they're as important, or if they're a little more distant, they're still super important. So even just, contacting somebody on social media or something like that, really, really important. Alcoholism is high. There's a strong relationship too between drugs and alcohol and mood disorders like depression or anxiety. And what that's actually called is comorbidity, when you have like 2 things going on at once. So like if you were to have like a substance abuse disorder as well as depression, you know what I mean? Depression is also higher in women, or more highly reported in women. So it's interesting because I want you guys, I mean, even though we have all these lovely stats and things to work off of, I want you guys to use your brains, right? Let's think about who reports depression, how it gets reported, and also the way that depression presents, because not all depression presents the same way, right? So what do you guys think? Is it that women are more emotional? Is it that women have more stress? Is it that women are more, taking things in a little differently, right? Or is it that it's not really being reported in men? Or, what is it? So, I mean, it's something to consider. Young adults also have more sexual partners, but they also have less sex less frequently than any other older adult age group. And they also have the highest rate of STIs. Casual sex is common, especially in college, right? Because remember, a lot of young adults are in college. And most sexual orientations, and when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about like heterosexual, LGBTQIAP plus, are clear about their sexual identity at this point, right? Sometimes people still have to work out something, figure out what's going on, right? But for the most part, by this point, people know who they are, what their desires are, what they're attracted to, where they stand. Infertility is another thing that we should talk about at this age. And what that is being, let's call it infertile, right? Is the inability to conceive after trying for 12 months, right? And this occurs in 30% of couples. And I want you guys to think about some of the implications of infertility and what that might mean for couples, and even like going and getting like assisted reproductive technology, whether it be IVF or like egg transfers or whatever. Just think about some of the implications associated with that and some of the stressors that might come from that. So at this point, it's great because we're using a new book this semester, and I love the fact that this is kind of different from last semester. It was like, oh no, after students get out of high school, they're headed straight to college or whatever, right? Now it's like there's not a clear path where it's like students go from this to that. Now it's way more fluid. We have workers, we have people who are playing, we have people who are going to school. And what does that mean? It's important to note that many times people who are going to college start to succeed, right? College rates are rising of who's attending college as well as who's graduating from college. Women actually they remain in the traditional women's studies, so like the psychology, nursing, early childhood education, things like that. So we're still seeing those themes, but it's okay. We gonna bust our way through it, right? So again, SES, race and ethnicity, culture, things like that, still affecting post-secondary education. So that's important to note. Working while in school often leads to dropping out. However, if you're working less than 20 hours a week, it leads to actual advances, which is great. And what they actually say is that your job, if you can, should be able to work with school to come up with some type of maybe like an internship or an entrance type program or something like that where you can get additional on-the-job training. Like for me, for instance, when I was doing my degree, one of my degrees, I used my job as my internship, and I got all types of different experiences still working at the same place, so I kind of understood the way things were. And then when I was able to finish my program, I was able to stay on, and it was just a really positive experience. So that's something to note. In college, freshmen tend to feel overwhelmed overall, right? And we know, just because you guys are in college, we've all been there, right? Where it's like you have all this stuff going on all at once. And don't let it be a situation where you're away from home, right? But some key factors to success are things like family supports. It's important to, even if you're not necessarily taking money and things like that, having those supports to lean on, to talk to, whatever you need, right? Even things like personal characteristics. I have a lot of students who have literally pulled themselves from nothing, right? And to be able to say, okay, I'm driven, so I'm going to make this work. That's a big deal, to have those intrinsic motivations and have your perseverance on high. Just like be a go-getter. Those are key. Also, the ability to build strong social and academic networks. So by that, I'm talking about those people who are on student government, those people who are interacting in all types of activities, maybe latch on to a certain professor and they're doing research under that professor, whatever that might mean. Even if it's just you're that person who's always like in the cafeteria and you're talking to this person, talking to that person, like those are positive things. And you know what's crazy? As I was writing out my little notes for this segment, I started thinking, and maybe, I don't know, I've been teaching this class for years, so why am I thinking about this now? I don't know. But I started thinking, these are what college, like when we start doing like college essays and stuff like that, this is kind of what they're asking. And it's crazy. Like, they want to know about your hardships, how your family helped you support and get you through certain things, some of your personal characteristics, how you're super resilient and you bounce back, right? Also, what kinds of clubs you've been doing and how your leadership skills in the community and this and that. Like, it's really interesting that not only are these the things that help us get through college, but these are also what colleges are looking for in people and in situations when they're looking for acceptance. So that, with that being said, please engage in internships and research projects and start talking to people, get social, get busy, right? Rekindle that relationship with your aunt who you haven't spoken to in 3 years, right? All that. It's super important, right? And it's not just like a single dimensional thing, is multidimensional. So consider that. What else, guys? So also, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I done went off on a tangent, guys. So, students typically change. Like when you enter college, the environment, a lot of times people will grow, people will change, people will evolve, and we do that as as a result of many things. One thing is in response to the curriculum, especially if you're taking like something that makes you think, like a social science or a philosophy or something like that. Like those are classes that make you think about like, wait, what? Hold up. Wait, do I really feel this way? Also, having your own views be challenged. We learn certain things from when we're young. And sometimes we get older and we realize like, okay, maybe that's not 100%. Or even somebody says like, why do you think that? Or why do you feel that way? And we really start to think and internalize that and say, well, what's going on? Why do I feel this way, right? Also the student culture, living in a world where students are, remember, student culture evolves from time to time, but understanding that just because something's not okay at a certain point does not mean that it won't be okay and that you won't accept it. And that speaks to probably the most important thing is exposure to diversity, which is like when you're exposed to certain groups, you're able to disseminate through all the nonsense and crap that you've been fed and say, wait, hold up, this group doesn't do this. Or, oh, wait, that's really great about this tradition, or whatever it is, right? Another thing that I thought was important was the role models that students see in faculty members. So it's, like I said before, latching onto a research project or something like that underneath a particular faculty member might be very, very helpful for you to establish, yourself as a successful student. So with that being said, that wraps up tonight's video highlighting young adulthood. That's your physical and cognitive development that goes on in young adulthood. We're going to jump into the next chapter next, and that is on the psychosocial development. So, as always, if you guys have any questions or whatever, email, text, call, just let me know, and I'm fully, ready and willing to answer whatever you need. All right, bye, guys.